Welcome to the studio at African Utility Week and Power Gen Africa. Right now in studio, I'm joined by Nandha Govender, who is going to be talking to us about solutions for power utilities to reduce their water footprint. Welcome, Nandha. Thank you for joining us. In light of climate change, we've seen drought conditions affecting Africa and the world at large. How is your organization managing water supply?
Yeah, so if you look at Eskom, the bulk of our power stations are coal-fired power stations.
Yes.
And they rely on water. So where the power stations are located is not necessarily where the water is located. That's where the coal is located. So water has to be transferred from other catchments into the catchments where our power stations are located. So it's important for us as Eskom, considering that we generate 95% of South Africa's electricity and about 45% of Africa's energy requirements.
Yes.
It's important for water to be managed in a sustainable manner. So what we do have is, from a risk perspective, we have power stations depending on dual sources. So water coming from different catchments. So in case there's a drought in one catchment, we have then water transfer from another catchment to those power stations. One of the major innovations that Eskom has introduced over the past couple of decades was the technology called dry cooling. It's a technology that actually reduces our water consumption in the cooling process.
Yes.
And it has been actually reduced our water footprint considerably. So if you look at all our the latest power stations, as well as the new power station, Medupi and Kusile,
Yes.
they are actually dry cool power stations. In fact, Medupi and Kusile are the world's largest dry cool power stations. So they use about 15 times less water than a conventional wet cool power station.
Yes.
So that has been a pioneering effort by Eskom to reduce its water footprint.
Yes.
In addition to that, we have a concept called diversifying our water mix.
Yeah.
So we're looking at how do we become less reliant on water, fresh water resources. So we're looking at utilization of treated mine water and recovery from our adjacent coal mines. And that also then reduces our fresh water intake.
Yes.
And then we're also looking at new power stations reliant more around what we call municipal return flows or municipal effluent. So here in the Western Cape, we have Coburg Power Station.
Yes.
That uses seawater for cooling. So that's the other innovation that we use. We use for seawater through cooling. It reduces the amount of water we use, fresh water we actually utilize at this point in time. Other innovations that we utilize, Eskom is, we have something called a water use performance indicator.
Yes.
Where we measure the amount of water that's utilized to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. Over the years, we've seen an improvement in the indicator from above 2 liters per kilowatt hour sent out, and it's now averaged around about 1.36 across our fleet at the moment. And that was due to many management interventions and policies and practices that we implemented. So we continue to reduce that or improve on the water use performance through our water management efforts, mostly around the water conservation, water demand management areas. The other technology that we kind of introduced from a policy perspective was around what we call a ZLED policy, the Zero Liquid Effluent Discharge policy.
Yes.
So what happens is water is actually cascaded from a high water use down to the low water use within our power stations.
Yeah.
So all the water is actually utilized throughout the entire process, and very little water is actually discharged, except for that that's used for waste disposal. But everything else is basically kept within the site, and we kind of recirculate and reuse water within the power station.
It is great to learn that Eskom is actually water efficient and it does take water that is a scarce resource and it needs to be managed well. So in closing, disruption is a word we often hear. It's new in the industry, but it's taken the industry by storm. So my question is, how does it impact your business or impact Eskom, and how are you managing it?
Yeah, disruption is a major buzzword at the moment,
Yes.
mostly so with the introduction of independent power producers from a generation perspective. So we're looking at IPPs playing a bigger role in the renewable space. So Eskom, apart from having a 100 megawatt plant built here in the Northern Cape, solar plant, Eskom hasn't been really focusing on renewable energy, and it's the direction in which Eskom has to go going forward. We have to diversify away from coal to more cleaner energy solutions like renewables and other baseload technologies like gas and perhaps nuclear going forward. The other disruption is around what we call off-grid applications, where customers are looking at off-grid type solutions. So where the customer is basically fed from not the grid, which is the transmission grid or the distribution grid, but looking more specifically around customers having their own generation capacity and kind of reliant on what we call, not actually reliant on Eskom, but reliant on their own kind of generation going forward. So those are, I think, are the major two technologies that Eskom has to kind of look at in terms of what is its role going forward. On the water space, I think there's a move in terms of becoming less reliant on fresh water.
Yes.
So how do we utilize more wastewater, other municipal effluents, more mine water, more seawater? And for me, I think that's the way we have to go in terms of disruption. We cannot be reliant more on fresh water because freshwater resources are declining, and it's actually being more jeopardized because of climate change impacts.
It's good to see that you are embracing change. That's all we have for now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel now for more industry-related content.